All right. Well, welcome everyone to Roundabout Books Thursday Night Author Series. My name is Julie. I'm the events manager at Roundabout Books. I wanted to give you a couple of updates on our bookstore. Our current hours are Monday through Thursday, 10 to 6, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 5. Make sure and stop by and see us if you're at the Saturday market at Northwest Crossing. We are going to have in-person events starting in September. So we are very excited to see people back in the store. We are going to continue offering a Zoom option for those events. So you will be able to tune in if you are out of town or not able to make it to the store. And I do want to remind everyone that events are happening all the time, book clubs, we've got a story time coming up. Great things are happening at the bookstore. And that is because of all of you that are on here tonight, supporting us through these last 18 months and making sure that Roundabout stayed in the community. One of those people who has been such a great support for us is Kim Cooper Findling. We love having events with you. In fact, my first or second bookstore event at Roundabout was for the Sixth Storm. So this is very fun. Tonight, we are going to talk with her about her new book, Bad Mommy, Bad Writer, Writing from Home While Keeping the Kids Alive. So just the title alone, I think, is excellent. If you're unfamiliar with Kim's work, she is the author of 8 books, including Day Trips to the Oregon Coast, The Sixth Storm with her daughter, Libby, who is also joining us tonight, as well as her other daughter who is up in Portland. I'm so excited to hear about this book that I think I'm just going to turn it over to you and your lovely daughters. Please let us know what it's like to be writing from home while keeping the kids alive.
Thank you so much, Julie. Yes, I felt like I needed to prove that I had kept the kids alive by bringing them along. They're also very skilled guest readers that you will hear in a little bit. Thanks everyone for being here. I see some familiar faces and it's lovely to see you on the Zooms. I thought I would start by talking about how this book came into existence. Way back in January of 2009, I started a blog. I was a working writer at that point already. I was freelancing mainly. And the conventional wisdom in the writing community at that point was that if you wanted to grow your writing career, and especially if you wanted ever to publish a book, which I very, very much did, that you needed to start a blog. And so I was reluctant. It felt like a lot of pressure, but I went ahead and launched that blog at the first of the year, 2009. I was, as well as writing, freelancing, I was also a stay-at-home mom to the 2 beauties here who were 1 and 3 at that time. And so the blog was really meant to be about chronicling my adventures in trying to become a published author, but I ended up writing a lot about what I was living, which was parenthood, motherhood. You know, every day these 2 did hilarious things that was great material. And so the blog, as it evolved, turned out to be a lot about writing and motherhood. And also there was a fair amount of grief sprinkled into the storyline because before the 2 beauties, I had lost my first baby. And at that time, I was still really living that grief journey. So some of that turned up in there as well. And, you know, the blog was popular in a small audience. I had a loyal, small, enthusiastic following. And after a couple of years of blogging, people started to suggest that I tried to turn the material into a book. And I knew enough to know that a blog and a memoir are 2 really different beasts, and that a memoir has to have a very identifiable plot arc, all of the elements of story and themes that run throughout. And I couldn't see in the material I had what that plot arc was, where it started, where it finished, you know, how the 3 tiers of motherhood and writing and grief fit together in a story. And I just couldn't see it. And so my career, however, was going really well. So well, in fact, that I stopped blogging because I was working for money. I was busy doing writing for, you know, magazines and publishers and whatnot. Spoiler for those of you who will read the book, that I actually did get a book deal partly out of the blog, not a book about the blog content, but anyway, so I was busy working on a lot of like successful writer things, and so I stopped blogging. But over the years, every now and then I would come back to this material and sort of try to look at it again, see if there's anything there. Still couldn't see it. The funny thing about this, though, was that I had started teaching writing by now, and I was teaching memoir writing sometimes. And one of the things that I had taught my students was that you need a decade. It takes 10 years past a time in your life to be able to write about it with clarity, to be able to make your life into a memoir. You need 10 years before you can look back on that and actually see it and parse it out. So I had taught that, but never really considered it when it came to my own blog material. I just thought that that was never going to become a book and put it aside. Never thought about my own 10-year rule. So then COVID hit. Everybody knows what that looks like, right? And suddenly myself and my children were all home together again. You know, I was doing my career from home, they were home. And it really brought all of those memories of that time back in a hurry. And it made me realize that my career and my motherhood journey and everything else have always been intertwined, just like everyone's lives, you know? And so last, I think it was April, right in the middle of the, not this prior April, but 2020 April, in the thick of everything, I opened up that Word document again with all of my blog material, and suddenly I could see it like a lightning bolt. I could see it. I could see the plot arc. I could see where the story began and where it ended. I could see the themes. Suddenly I understood how the writing and the motherhood and the grief actually were all thematically companions, because they all had, what they all have in common is this sort of like, it's the daily journey of the little wins and the little failures and the joys and the sorrows and all of the surprising ways that life can be like super mundane and super surprising all at the same time. And how in the middle of that, it's easy to focus on the wrong things, to get kind of lost in the minutia, and which led to basically the ultimate theme of this book is learning to let go and live in the present and be grateful that basically we are, every day we are living the story. There is no like one story arc, right? However, in this case, I had found the story arc, so yay. So I spent a month or two pulling the material together, definitely did culling, etc. Sent it off to my developmental editor, who helped me further define the plot arc and the themes and everything else and pull it together into a manuscript. And that is what I present to you today. 10 years.
Yeah, that's yeah, memoirs are hard. I mean, whether or not you already know your real topic, or how much you want to give away about your real personal life. So we have, two of your kiddos here who have gone through this with you, whether they remember all of the things or not, being so little. But you said we're going to hear from them. They've got a story to read for us.
We have a few excerpts to read for you.
Excellent.
I'm going to start. So the blog was titled Blooming Eventually. And this was the about on the homepage. Me these days, mother, wife, and writer watching 40 climb the front steps like a peddler pushing time. The writer part used to come first, the 40 used to be a 30, and marriage and motherhood were abstract activities I thought I'd try someday. Oh, growing up, if only it was the thrill we were promised. I have written hundreds of articles that have been published. I have written a book which has not been published. It has been rejected repeatedly. So the question remains, will I bloom eventually? Will I molder away like a dud shrub in some forgotten corner of, or will I ditch the whole writing thing, adopt a Xanax habit, abandon my own identity, and live the rest of my life vicariously through my children? Let's find out. Our next excerpt will be read by Maris. So I should mention that in the book, the girls have nicknames, I guess. I called Libby Chicken Little, or sorry, Chicken Noodle, and Maris Chicken Little. So Chicken Little, take it away.
Average morning routine, January 29th, 2010. It is Monday, daycare day. We've been up since 5 a.m. It's now 7:25. Everyone is dressed and has been fed something in milk from a bowl. Peanut butter sandwiches have been slathered together and stuffed in bags. I've even showered. Cool, I think. I can have the chickens there by 7:45 and be back home writing by 8. That gives me 3 hours before I have to finish up and go get them again. I have an essay brewing in my head. But then, as we turn to the task of donning coats, Chicken Noodle notices that Snow White is missing. At this, an entire potential alternative morning to the one I had in my mind flashes before my eyes. It is not pretty. I have to have her, Noodle screams dramatically. Can we take Cinderella today? I plead. No, Snow White, Snow White. We turn the house upside down, searching for the errant snow. A frustrating and futile activity that nonetheless allows me to enough empty my mind space to begin obsessing about the writing minutes ticking away. Tick, tick, tick. And finally, holler like a crazy person. We're looking for 2 more minutes and then we're going. This pronouncement flashes a fire under Chicken Noodle's anxiety issues, the root of which surely can be blamed on moi, giving all this crazy person modeling, but that's another story. And she starts wailing. Just then I hear a crunch, crunch, crunching noise and turn to see that Chicken Little has plucked a forgotten glass ornament from under the sofa and bit it in two. And now, tiny broken bits of probably lead-filled glass are tumbling from her lips. I swipe my finger through her mouth, mumbling, "Oh geez, oh geez." "Oh cheese," she replies, spitting glass, while Noodle continues to wail like her hair is on fire. In a moment of unexpected inspiration, I hurtle to the basement, retrieve Snow from the dollhouse, hand her to a delighted Chicken Noodle, and scurry everyone out the door into a rainstorm. Now I notice I have forgotten to dress myself. I throw some things on that aren't pajamas, adorned with sock monkeys, load the chickens into the car, and drive while they themselves remove half of the clothing I just put on them. It is now 8 o'clock. At school, I redress small people, shove things in cubbies, give kisses, give more kisses, give one more hug, and depart. Back at home, I am confronted by what appears to be the aftermath of a bombing. Cereal is mixed with broken glass, is mixed with remaining and tragically unloved princesses. I clean. It is now 8:30. I have 2.5 hours to write. The anxiety has worn off and I have been replaced with exhaustion. What essay was I going to write? I can't remember. I glance at the couch. It beckons. I collapse. Well, not really. I am too type A to actually sleep my daycare hours away, but sometimes it seems as if it might actually be more productive use of the time.
That was fantastic reading. So I want to ask you a question, Maris, real quick, reading your mom's work. How does it feel to hear stories about yourself?
It's fun. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't remember any of this, but it's really fun to hear the stories.
You should
Awesome.
you should tell them though that Maris read this book in 24 hours back in June and sent me a text that will be something I will say for all time, that was basically like, "Mom, your book is so good, I almost started crying on the bus."
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. Well, Libby, do you have an excerpt for us?
I do.
Excellent.
All right. Try Die, March 17th, 2010. It has been said that all fear is fear of death. I've managed to wrap my head around the fact that all negative emotions are fear. Envy is fear, anger is fear, anxiety is fear. But I hadn't gotten my head around all fear being fear of death until I began living with a kid obsessed with death. 2 weeks ago, after half an hour lost to the ephemeral delights of screaming, flailing crazyland on account of who remembers what transition, probably that it was time to go to gymnastics, I finally cornered Noodle, gave her a fierce hug, got down on her face, and said gently, "I know you have a hard time when things change, when you aren't ready for them to change." Her face crumpled. "I don't want to grow up. I don't want to die. I want to be 5 forever." Whoa, dude. And I thought I was existential. Today, on the way to swimming lessons, apropos of nothing, she said, "Is everybody going to die? The whole world? Everybody?" I've learned to just cut to the chase. Yes. But that's sad. I don't want to die. "You aren't going to die for a long, long time." But actually, she brightly reconsidered. "I want to try die, like die for a minute and come alive again." "Well, sweetie, it doesn't work that way." "Why not? I want to. Then I would know what it would be like for, later." Before I could respond to this, who knows how, we arrived at our destination. "Land ho!" hollered Chicken Little, and I was off the hook until next time. This will surely come, if not before then, in May, when her brother's birth/death day rolls around. Unsurprisingly, Noodle thinks his little cemetery plot is the most fascinating place on earth. Is he really in there? She recently told her entire preschool class about the cemetery and her brother with an enthusiasm akin to if he were, say, a newly acquired guinea pig. We go and visit him at the place where all people go to die. He lives there, but not really lives because he's dead. To Noodle, the whole dead sibling thing is like seriously cool. It's given me a totally refreshing take on that particular situation, I must say.
That was fantastic. Thank you. So I kind of, you said the same thing, or how is it reading these stories about yourself?
It's really weird because I know that person like existed, but I have no memory of like anything.
I want to ask both of you too, real quick, just because Libby, I know with the Sixth Storm, you've got the writer gene. Do you think that you want to be a professional writer?
I don't know about professionally, but I definitely will keep writing.
Yeah. Maris,
Yeah.
how about you?
I'm really into art.
Okay.
I illustrated a book for Dancing Moon Press, so.
That's awesome. Kim, you are keeping it in the family.
I'm keeping them busy.
It's so fun. So, Kim, how does it feel though to put this book out and kind of think, you're opening up some maybe flaws or, that thing, I'm not a mom, I'm an auntie, but is someone going to judge me? Did I do it right? All those things. So how does that feel about like putting this out there?
It feels good. It felt like the right time. And I'm finding that the audience that this book is really resonating with is the people who have young kids, because there's so much vulnerability there. And I think really not just mothers, but fathers too, like we're just really hard on ourselves as parents. And for me, like revealing that my own vulnerability and my own missteps and whatever is like hopefully liberating to other people too. Like there's no perfect route, and you are just sort of muddling through, doing the best you can and keeping the kids alive.
Absolutely. I read a book a couple years ago that had a chapter that I wanted to send to my sister that basically was, are you alive? Are the kids alive? Everything's fine.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people don't think about before they are in parenthood. There are so many things that can go wrong, including someone biting down on a glass ornament.
Yes.
I really thought it was going to be like salt clay. And maybe it was just going to be like a bad taste in her mouth, not actual glass.
Right.
Well, I know we have a lot of people on the event right now that know you, and if they don't, I'm sure they want to talk to you. So I think we should go ahead and open it up to some Q&A. So if you're not familiar with Zoom, there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. You can put a question in the chat, or you can do the raised hand function, or just wave at me on the screen and I will happily unmute you. We'll probably only do one at a time just so that we don't have too much interference with that. So does anyone have a question burning right now? Nancy, yes, hold on. Okay, so you should be able to unmute yourself again. There you go.
I don't think this question is not burning. But I love the little one-liners, two-liners that you put into the book, and I didn't remember those in the blog. Did you pull those out of the book? Were they in a different? Where'd those come from?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Nancy was a loyal reader of my blog back in the day, so she remembered all kinds of things. And really what I was saying about turning it into a book, I cut a lot. There was a lot that didn't feel relevant to the plot. I was pretty, strict about keeping in things that really contributed to the motherhood writing story arc. And so there were a lot of blog posts that maybe weren't all in all as a whole worthy, but there were great little tidbits I wanted to pull out of them. So I did come up with that idea to do, there's sort of a running 1-2-liner through the book that often is called Things I Learned This Week.
Yeah.
But it's just, a one-off that I pulled from some of the other content that I cut. But it also broke it up. I think it kind of, people have said it's a really quick read. They keep it on their desk, grab it up, read a little bit, so that's what that came from, Nancy. But when I was actually blogging, I didn't let myself do anything like that. I was at that point, I felt that every post needed to, be 300 or 400 words to count,
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think it is a pickup. It is, and it makes it even easier to pick it up and put it down, and you kind of know where you are. And those are just cute little, wonderful. Sometimes the kids just say something incredibly wonderful. And I guess I would say to the kids that when this book is really going to be appreciated is when you have kids, Maris and Libby, and they get to read this book and see some of the wonderfully, they'll love it. They'll love it. Your kids are going to love this book 30 years from now. So just remember that.
Thank you, Nancy.
That is fun to think about too, because you've kind of written, this is a historical account of your kids too, so now it kind of lives in, like you were saying with a blog, it lives in the ether forever. Yeah. And they can go back to it. I actually have a question. Where did the nicknames come from? Is that something you actually call them, or you just did it for the book?
That is a really good question. And the origin of that might be lost on me a little bit. Although I think so I used to call them the chickens collectively. It was like, rather than the kids, I called them the chickens. That's what came first. And I I don't know why, but then when I needed to name them, it was, Chicken Noodle is funny. Plus she's just funny. She was funny then. She's kind of a noodle. And then Chicken Little, so they're both also, words that are other things, chicken noodle soup and Chicken Little from the barnyard. So, and that was really a decision that was about privacy. At that point, I mean, now they're their own people and social media is social and their names are known. But at that time, I didn't feel super comfortable using their real names. So that kind of evolved out of that.
That's cool. All right. Do we have any more questions from our audience? Let's see. I hate to put people on the spot. I feel like you're in school and got to.
I have to point out our friend Liza, the girls. Do you remember Ann Lewis, our neighbor who was our babysitter? This is her mom. She lived next door to us when the girls were little. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you. I feel this is a great honor and privilege to see all of you here today. I'm so excited. It's been a long time and I'm expecting Ann to visit this coming week. So That's fun. And also I want to say how much I enjoyed the sixth storm. I was just blown away and I'm inspired honestly by you guys. And I have just started to write a little bit with the writing group and a little bit of showing up here and there with the Writers Guild and Blank Pages. So that's why I'm here today, because I knew you were going to be here today too. So thanks for your sharing. And I haven't had the privilege to read the book yet. So I may get there someday, but I'm just happy to know that you guys are here doing all of this fun work together. And you also work with the rest of my family that writes with the magazine. So
yes.
We're connected in many ways and happy to share with you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know Scott too. So hi, Scott.
Well, Eliza, I love that you mentioned the Writers Guild and Blank Pages here in town. Kim and I are both involved, and Kim was so nice to be on a meeting with us earlier this year about publishing and talking to the guild members. And it's a great community I think we have here of writers. And obviously I know, Kim, you're doing a lot of work with Ben Magazine. I mean, the magazine is always beautiful. So how maybe has your writing evolved? I mean, are you still writing stuff that would be more like this book, or is it really, the magazine?
That's such a great question, Julie. One of the things that I've thought about with this, one of the reasons that it felt so great to go back to this material is that it really is my voice. It really is my writing and my voice. And another irony of success is that your voice can become owned or directed by others. When I'm writing, I'm the editor of Ben Magazine, when I'm writing or editing for them, I use the Ben Magazine voice. And when I'm writing my travel guidebooks, I'm using the voice that the publisher prefers. I mean, I have a little freedom in there, right? But nothing like this, which is, I was truly just free on my blog to write. I actually developed my voice a lot on that blog, So I don't have a lot of time these days between Dancing Moon Press and Ben Magazine to do a lot of my own writing. Every now and then I manage to do an essay, but these days I'm so busy. And I just have to know that, that all of that writing will still be there for me in the future when I am not as busy. But that's part of what felt great about this material, was sort of recapturing and releasing my own voice into the world again, and sort of playing in that field again, and also remembering how hard I worked for this career. I mean, I think I rolled into the pandemic pretty burned out, which I think a lot of people did. It was kind of this time of pause and reflection. And, I going back to this time when I was really doing everything I could to make my career happen, it was like, oh yeah, I worked really hard for this, I really wanted it. And that was nice to be reminded of both of those things, that and my own little voice that's still in there.
Yeah. So remind me the ages of the chickens currently.
In the book
No,
now?
currently.
Oh, Libby's 16. She drove me here.
Nice. I mean, it takes some trust. Let me tell you, I'm 40. My mom still hates it when I'm like, give me the keys. I'm driving. And she's like,
right? Yeah. And Maris is 14.
okay, excellent. So have you noticed as they've become more independent, then that has translated into your work? Because you've been with Ben Magazine for a while, but Dancing Moon Press is fairly new. As you acquired it. It's given you maybe a little bit more freedom to have more work because they are self-sufficient somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely, they don't need me quite as much as I don't need to stop them from eating Christmas ornaments, I mean.
Now, ladies, let's make sure you don't give your mom too much more to write about, because
right?
years,
Well,
you
that's
could
the
give her
thing.
some good stories.
10 years from now,
Right.
maybe I'll have the teen years. That's another actual thing I've been really aware of, is that when they were little, I could write about them. Now, I don't think it would go very well. They are their own thinking people, I mean, so it really was kind of a time and place thing. I know people who do write about their teenagers, but mixed results, like there's trust issues there. So
Absolutely.
Well, and I have to say, as Kim's mom, that maybe it'd be safe to write about her now.
Yes, if you do decide to write anything and you don't want to show it to her, you just give me a call. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
There's nothing to tell. I was very boring.
Well, I think, like I said, this is just so applicable to a lot of parents, because whether or not you're working from home or out in an office like you are now at Ben Magazine, it's such a balance. And some days are good and some days are bad. And I have my nephew, I think about one day a week, and I get absolutely nothing done.
Right.
Yeah, he's 3 and he's like, don't go to your computer. I want to play. And I'm like, oh, good. Let's go play in the pool and, wash down the house on accident. Do we have any other questions from our audience? I know Scott has been watching this whole time, and we've got a couple other people on their phones. I just want to give everybody a chance to ask a question of Kim or either of her kids before we, All right, here, Scott, there you go. If you should be able to unmute. There you go.
Yes, I'm new to writing. I've been writing for about 3 years, and I've recently finished a novel. And I hear horror story after horror story of, you should plan on, say, 4 or 5 years at least and trying to get it published. Or as you mentioned just a little bit earlier, rejection after rejection sort of thing. And I'm wondering about, I'm ignorant. I haven't looked into this stuff at all because I've just gotten to the point of where I'm going to try to publish something. But I'm wondering, do people, as with your blog, are there people who serialize, say, a novel onto a blog and just publish it that way? Either trying to do some kind of a pay thing or just punt and say, I just want to get this thing out there?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine that there's people doing all kinds of things out there. Julie, do you have any insight into this?
Well, I think the landscape has definitely changed even again just in the last couple of years because self-publishing has gotten so much better than it was, 5 or 10 years ago. Cover design, layout, what you can do online. That this was the panel that we had for the Writers Guild earlier this year was kind of talking about the difference between traditional and self-publishing. And Kim, I know you, with Dancing Moon, but then also working with the travel guides and this, you can do it a dozen different ways. I think you have to look at your goal is if you have like what you're saying, Scott, you want this book to be out there because you like what you've written and you want other people to read it and you're not looking for a major deal from a big 5 publisher. I think self-publishing is amazing. I really do. I think there's so many options and you can still get your book in bookstores.
You can get your
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about where we are right now. And Scott, I'm not sure if you're local, but the Central Oregon Writers Guild has a lot of good connections for people looking into publishing their own books.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for being here. All right. Well, Kim or girls, do you guys have anything else you want to add about this book and the process of, seeing this book come to fruition?
Read it.
That's perfect. That's the best endorsement. Yeah, you should, we'll have to put that in front of your book, Kim, at the bookstore. We'll have to put, her daughter says, just read it.
I love it. Yeah, someone said you got an endorsement from your own teenager. That is unheard of. Thank you, Chicken Little.
I'm here. Can you unmute me?
Yeah, you're good, Nancy. We can hear you.
Okay. So if it's okay, I'd like to ask Maris, what did you like about it? I mean, I just loved that book. I'm a mommy who had 3 little kids. What did you like about it?
I mean, I really enjoyed the point of view from like the struggle and the buildup and then like the breaking point and like how wonderful that was. And just reading the stories about how me and Libby were when we were younger and what we did.
Yeah. It's a treasure. It's a treasure for you girls. It really is.
Oh, one last thing from me. Thank you for that question, Nancy. I love hearing that perspective from you girls. And I have to say, I always really enjoyed your first book, Kim. I think, or your Mostly Cloudy with a Chance of Sun. I did really love the way the essays go together, and that also I always find inspiring. So just in case no one's read that one, it's fun too.
Thank you.
Well, I have one more question, and that is, I'm intrigued by what you said, Kim, about how it's good to wait 10 years before you write a memoir. And I wondered what you learned in the last 10 years that you think was useful for this.
Well, I'm not sure that it's necessarily about learning. I think it's the perspective. I think that a lot of the struggle with memoir writing is that you're too in it and life is complicated. And when you're living it, it's really hard to parse out what is part of the story you're trying to craft and what is cutting room floor. And I think that just the act of living gives you the perspective to look back on a time and see it more clearly, to be able to see it objectively, to be able to decide what that story might be and to cut out the parts of it that aren't relevant to the story.
So perspective.
I think it's perspective. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great question. Well, again, thank you everybody for being here tonight, especially, teenagers. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you have lots of fun stuff to do over summer break. Please, both of you come see us at the store soon. I know we sometimes see you on breaks from the school, and hopefully when we get school back in session normally, we'll have all of our fun teenagers stopping by the cafe. I do want to remind everyone that you can get a copy of this book from Roundabout. If you're not local, we will happily ship it to anywhere in the United States. And I think, Kim, do we have signed copies?
I don't think so, because
Okay.
I think you order directly from Ingram, but I can come sign them.
Yeah, I'll check in with Cassie and see what we've got in stock, and then we can get, I always love getting a signed copy.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, and again, if you're around and you want to see some of our upcoming events, check our event calendar on the Roundabout Bookshop website. We will be offering Zoom options for all of our in-person events at the store for the foreseeable future. So we would really love to see everyone join us on Zoom as well as in the store. And I think that will be it for tonight. Thank you again, Kim, Maris, Libby, Joanne, and everybody else for joining us. Happy reading and have a happy weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.